Well, I don't know if you know the story of 3CI, but we've been around for 25 years or so, and started in a garden and went from there to different school halls and eventually on this property where we are now. And we've been in 2 different tents. So when you ask about a dream, it started actually in someone's home, and that's like where we find ourselves now, standing on the steps of a new building is incredible.
Hi, my name is Ferdy. I'm an architect. I'm currently employed at 3CI. I've had the great privilege of working on the building project for the last 2 and a bit years. We're standing in the parking lot at 3CI, and this is actually how I got onto this project. So I came to 3CI, wasn't really in a church, didn't want too much to do with the church, and I met Eugene on the parking team eventually. I fell in love with Jesus and this church and started serving on the parking team. Became friends with Eugene and we got chatting about architecture. He was looking to start the building project. I was an inexperienced architect, and after a few requests, I said no 3 times. I was too intimidated, and then eventually I said yes. And for the last 2 years, I've had the amazing privilege of being involved with this project.
What we love about church and local church is that people bring what's in their hands. And so a good friend of mine, Clint, he can ride bikes, and through a whole bunch of amazing scenarios that played out, he rode all the way to Cape Town from Bloemfontein, and ended up raising over 2 million rand. So often worship is that guy on stage with a guitar who can sing well, and that's worship. But actually something we've really enjoyed and we've seen happen in the building project is, what do you find in your hand? And so it's an amazing story to think that someone would get on a bike for the kingdom. And he went through many injuries and through a lot of pain and suffering, but actually at the end of it, it makes for an amazing story that worship can look different. And sometimes it's someone giving money out of a private bank, sometimes it's a small kid giving money out of his piggy bank, and sometimes it's a guy climbing on a bike and putting his body on the line to raise money for people who he might not have met yet.
Not being someone involved with the church and now being very intimately involved with the church, I've seen things that I didn't think were possible. I think I had a misconception of what the church was, of who Jesus was. And through this project, I think I've just met Jesus, and I've seen his lavish generosity poured out over me, my family, my wife, who is the landscape architect on this project. We met here. I mean, I think that's the one act of generosity that's blown my mind. I met my wife here on this property. Turned out she's a landscape architect. Turns out we're working on this project together. I was a young architect looking for experience and just looking to be obedient to what I thought the call was on my life, and God just took that and absolutely blew my mind. God just given me a vision of how my vocation can be used. Just what calling could look like in a way that I didn't imagine, and it's just been unbelievable to see the miracles on this project. I've seen the hand of God work through people, through finances, through raw materials, through bricks, through concrete. So I've seen God move in ways I couldn't imagine.
We faced a lot of challenges. I mean, any given year would have been normal, and there would be challenges that would have popped up. But obviously over 2020, there were many challenges that popped up. But just one of the examples is the roof sheeting that you can see behind me, the cladding. When it was time to put that on, there was a shortage of steel in South Africa, and the steel mills were actually closed during lockdown, and it would have pushed the whole project out by 3 months. And through some phone calls, literally 24 hours later, a phone call came through. They'd found steel in Durban. A milling guy came through, and they milled the cladding that you see on the building behind me on site. And within this case of 24 hours, where we had nothing, we had no roof sheeting, the rains were coming. 24 hours later, all these components came together, and actually the goodness of God just was on display again.
I've seen God provide building materials that weren't there the day before. We've seen someone supply diesel to our generator monthly. We've seen 6 million rands worth of Kruger rands rock up at 3CI to pay a contractor's bill. So I've just seen the amazing generosity of God poured out over this church in the most unlikely time anyone could imagine.
The thing that gripped my heart and so many people's hearts is actually for another generation. I always thought, I can't wait to sit in a comfortable chair and have great sound. But actually, through the process of this project, it's shifted. It's for a generation that's maybe still in Kidsman, and maybe it's for people who are not even part of our church yet. So it's really challenged so many of us in the community that what we're building is not for us. It's for another generation. It's for a bigger story.
I've obviously learned a lot about buildings and working on teams in this project and how churches work. But I think what's just blown my mind is the person of Jesus working intimately with us, putting the right people together, lavishly blessing us with resources, and just the amazing timing of this whole thing, just small coincidences coming together, little details that we honestly couldn't imagine. I think being involved in this project, we've just seen God work in the most miraculous ways. We've just seen God's kindness. We've seen God's genius in orchestrating things. We've just seen, the amazing sort of minds that He's created. I mean, working alongside these engineers has shown me something of God's brilliance. Working with builders has shown me something of God. I've seen a master architect who's put the universe in place, and we've just seen that worked out daily on this construction site. So I think God's honestly just blown our minds, and I think we've seen amazing blessing coming from this building. We've seen people so into it faithfully, and you can't outgive God. So we've seen sacrifices come into this building project, but God has outgiven us at every step.
We partnered with a lot of churches, and I think just the relationship with James and Vanessa and Solid Ground is a very real relationship. Maybe you sitting in Middelburg and this is a church in Pretoria, but there is something happening in the spirit that is very exciting, and there's a physical partnership, but there's a spiritual partnership. And Solid Ground, you have an inheritance in this church. And we look forward to the day when COVID and lockdown is a thing of the past, where we can worship with you in this building here. And the invite is open at any time. You guys are always welcome to come to the church. If you're ever in Pretoria and in trouble, like we tell 3CI, run to the church, run to 3CI, and we hope we can be good to you.